think the public has been suspicious from the start, does not trust Hillary or Donald for that matter, and the public has been very clear that they want another choice, they want another alternative, and I think that alternative is being lifted up by, in fact, by the Bernie Sanders campaign and by his supporters. And I'd say hold on to your hat. You know, the other thing we saw in those emails was the collusion between the corporate media and the DNC. And this is a real, I think this is the question of the hour, and perhaps one of the biggest questions regarding our campaign. How is that collusion contributing to this blackout, this media blackout on our campaign? And, I wish we could foil all those emails and see what other kinds of collusions are going on.
What more do you think will happen in terms of trying to win over, the Bernie Sanders supporters on your behalf? And what more do you think is going to happen in the coming days?
The coming days are packed with rallies and gatherings, and events that were going to be about Bernie are now featuring our campaign. So I think this is it's sort of like the birth of a movement here, and that unity, that coming together. And we're having a party, an ongoing party, a people's party, over the course of the next week, which is a get to know you. It's laying down plans and bringing our structures together so that we can piggyback on Bernie's organization, and Bernie's organization can piggyback on our electoral organization.
I'll move over this way a little bit. Just wait.
Yes, indeed, you're not kidding.
Okay, sure. Tell me, do you anticipate sort of being the, for lack of a better word, the nadir of this race in some respects? I mean, Gary Johnson is maybe getting his rap too, but the possibility of handing Donald Trump the election and by people who are supporting.
So I'll ask you, is there a new form of entitlement for politicians? Do they own our votes? I thought they had to earn our votes. Hillary doesn't have the votes to be taken away from. And I think the American people are very clear about that. It'd be nice if the press was too. So she doesn't own our votes to start with. And we have a very screwed up voting system that tells people they should vote against what they fear rather than for what they want. But in fact, this politics of fear doesn't work. We've been practicing this lesser evilism for at least 15 years, and what did it get us? It got us all those things we were promised we would not have if we simply voted for the lesser evil. So the bailouts for Wall Street, the offshoring of our jobs, the meltdown of the climate, the attack on our civil liberties and on immigrant rights. If you look at where did Donald Trump come from? Donald Trump is lifted up by economic misery and this right-wing extremism that results from the policies of the Clintons. Neoliberalism, to use a bunch of fancy words here, neoliberalism creates neo-fascism. And it's not just Donald Trump. These are worldwide movements now. There is the rise of these neo-fascist movements in response to globalization, in response to the offshoring of jobs. I'm being distracted here for a moment. In response to austerity, in response to the domination by the banks. This is what you get, is this rise of this xenophobia, this racist right-wing extremism.
What do you make of what Donald Trump has been?
Just to finish that thought, if I could, Hillary Clinton's policies have led to the rise of Donald Trump, and that's specifically NAFTA and Wall Street deregulation, passed by Bill but promoted and celebrated by Hillary. So putting another Clinton in the White House is only going to fan the flames of right-wing extremism. As Bernie himself said, the only solution here is to stand up with truly progressive policies like the Bernie movement has been about. It's been crushed by the Democratic Party, proving that if we are to have a revolutionary campaign, it must happen in a revolutionary party, not a counter-revolutionary party. So this nonsense about lesser evilism is a propaganda campaign to rein people in out of fear and intimidate them out of building the movement that we need to build. And it's largely coming from, the professional politicians, apologists, and party operatives who are saying, don't dare do what people are clamoring for. If you silence political opposition, that is the definition of tyranny. We bomb such countries. We invade such countries. The solution here is to pass ranked choice voting, a simple reform that's being used across America from San Francisco to Portland, Maine, and the Twin Cities. We can pass that right now in state legislatures across the country on an emergency basis. It would take 36 hours to fix the voting system to allow people to rank their choices, so if their first choice loses, they can then vote for their second choice. No splitting involved. My campaign filed this bill the first time I ran for office in Massachusetts in 2002, and the legislature refused to let it out of committee. They could have passed it in the blink of an eye. They will not let that bill out because they rely on fear. Why do they rely on fear? Because they know they are not your friend and they cannot win your vote based on the integrity of what they propose and what they will do. That alone should lose your vote on their behalf in and of itself.
Dr. Stein, can you talk to us about viability?
So we reached out to him to urge him to withdraw his endorsement for Hillary Clinton, now that that campaign has been revealed to have been stabbing him in the back under, behind closed doors. So he should withdraw his endorsement, and he should come over and join me in exploring how we can work together and bring a truly revolutionary campaign into a revolutionary party.
Do you foresee that as him being the president or the presidential candidate, or you still being the presidential candidate and him being the VP pick? What do you see this as?
So, ultimately this is up to the delegates. The delegates to our convention will decide who their presidential candidate will be. However, if Bernie Sanders had a change of heart and he saw the light, the green light, that the Greens are the way forward for this revolutionary movement, if he truly became the proponent for independent third-party politics, I think, there's no end to what we could do with Bernie's running inside of the Green Party. And I myself would be perfectly happy, as far as I'm concerned, to step aside and allow him to run in that position if he truly became a proponent for revolutionary politics inside of the Green Party.
Now some people may say, oh, the Green Party, I don't know anything, there's no chance, why even bother? But it seems like there's a lot of energy here.
Exactly, and if you look at the polls, this is exactly what Americans are clamoring for. An honest broker, a candidate who is not held hostage by lobbyists, by corporate money, and by super PACs. That's exactly what people are clamoring for. At the very least, we should open up the debates, and I think it's likely. We've come up in the polls, we've tripled our numbers without any coverage from the big corporate media. We've basically come up just by word of mouth from 2% to around 6 and even 7% in the polls. So if we can double that again, we will be in the debates. And then Donald Trump will then finally have someone who can hold his feet to the fire. Because right now he is to the left of Hillary Clinton on the Trans-Pacific Partnership and on a whole variety of other issues. So he needs to be challenged. Voting for me, supporting my campaign, is not a giveaway to Donald Trump. Unfortunately, supporting Hillary Clinton and destroying Bernie's campaign was the real giveaway to Donald Trump. Now we need to make sure that we continue to hold Trump's feet to the fire and that we hold Hillary's feet to the fire.
Really quickly, like maybe a couple of key points of what you stand for in your platform.
So we call for an emergency jobs program, 20 million jobs to end this economic crisis where most people are still struggling to get out of poverty or to stay out of poverty. 1 in 2 Americans are either in poverty or heading towards poverty and low income. So we can solve that with an emergency jobs program that also solves the emergency of climate change. We call for canceling student debt like we did for the bankers who crashed the economy. We can do the same thing through the same technique of quantitative easing. We can apply that to the victims of that waste, fraud, and abuse on Wall Street. Bail out a generation, which would be the stimulus package of our dreams, to unleash a generation to actually do what they've been trained to do to transform our economy into the 21st century. We need the power and the vision and the skills that they can bring to this. We call for free public higher education, health care as a human right, ending police violence and mass incarceration, a welcoming path to citizenship, and finally, a foreign policy based on international law and human rights not this catastrophic policy of regime change and economic and military domination. Thank you.
And Dr. Stein, thank you, Dr. Stein. How are you? So just picking up on the viability question again, talk to us about fundraising right now and ballot access. Where are you on both?
Great. So we are charging ahead on both. And it was Bernie's endorsement of Hillary actually that opened the floodgates to the pouring of volunteers into our campaign and to these mysterious $27 donations that then began filling our inbox. So it's really a whole different ball game going forward. We are on the ballot right now for about 65% of voters, but we are on our way to at least 95, perhaps more. In the last race, we were on the ballot for 85% of voters. So most people will have the opportunity to actually vote for a candidate that is not bought and paid for by Wall Street, by the fossil fuel giants, and by the war profiteers.
And 4 years ago when you tried to debate, you were arrested and handcuffed and kept in what could be described as a black site. Is that evidence that we're actually not living in a democracy at all? And how do you plan to challenge that this year if you don't get into the debates with that 15% margin?
I think, our arrest and holding in a black site was just one piece of evidence of the many ways in which we are not a democracy. We're not a democracy in that we basically silence political opposition and we keep people off the ballot, out of the debates, and out of the media. The kind of collusion that you saw revealed in the emails that were released just a couple days ago reveal what's going on here with the corporate press and the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign. So if that was going on to Bernie Sanders, might there also be something going on to other political opponents? We are a very inconvenient truth as another woman candidate who's actually a progressive, who actually represents the values of feminism, which include peace and global justice, that Hillary represents the opposite of. So I would not be surprised at all. I wish we could FOIA the other emails and find out exactly what else is going on. I think there's enormous momentum on the part of the public to actually stand up and create an America and a world that works for all of us, to get out from under corporate politics and create the promise of democracy that we must have if we are going to move forward, not just into the next century, but if we're even going to survive in the next couple of decades. We're all in the target hairs right now, so it's time to reject the lesser evil, not be intimidated into silence, and to fight for the greater good, the power to create that world that puts people, planet, and peace over profit. That power is not just in our hopes and dreams, it's right here and now in our hands. Thank you for being the real press. We call the other guys the O press and the re press. Thank you for being the real press. Thank you so much.